Jack, when you're looking at 2020 and where the 49ers struggled, which position group do you think is going to take the biggest leap from last season to this season?
Yeah, and this one for me, if we're looking at that, the group that's going to make the biggest leap for me is going to be the offensive line. I think that's when you look at that one, and the reason is because they've got the center figured out, and that was I think really the whole genesis of their issues up front last year was the rotation at center, never staying constant, and I think that also caused the problems for Mike McGlinchey. He's always going to have problems, but made him even a little bit worse because he didn't have the same guy next to him throughout the season. It was kind of rotation between center and right guard. That was just always a mess. And they went into this offseason, they kept the left tackle the way they had it. They kept their left guard, who I think might be the weak link of the offensive line now, Tomlinson. But you've got Mack there at center. I think he kind of really solidifies the offensive line, and I think that Aaron Banks at right guard is just going to be an absolute beast when it comes to pass protection. He's going to get there in the run game too. But I really think that offensive line is going to take a big step up. Last year, part of it was the quarterback play, as far as how many times the quarterbacks were getting hit and the sacks and those kind of things. But part of it too was just they did not play as well as they did in 2019, and I just think they're going to step up big time, and we're going to see that.
And I think the other thing with that, too, is just from 2019 to 2020, they were running the ball so much more. And this is a team that is obviously, I think the numbers graded out. They're a better run blocking team than they are a pass blocking team. And when you are forced to pass block so much when you're such a run-first, run-heavy team, it does make Mike McGlinchey look very bad over and over, right? You see the cut-ups on Twitter. But you hit it. I think the offensive line, it's going to be the biggest upgrade. And you just look at their second draft pick that they made this year. A guy like Aaron Banks, he's not necessarily known as a run blocker, but like I just said, this team has been excellent in run blocking. Even last season, I think with PFF, they graded out as a top 10 team with all their issues. But in pass blocking, they ranked, I believe, bottom 5 last year. So Aaron Banks is a guy who's going to really add to that pass game and going to be able to help out a guy like Mike McGlinchey when you have someone who's stable right beside him, like you perfectly mentioned earlier, because that was such a rotational thing with the Niners this year. And with offensive line especially, I mean, people say it over and over, continuity is the most important thing. So now that I think we're getting some more cornerstones in place, I think this is going to be the group I think that's going to stand out above the rest as like, oh, this is why this team is going to be really, really good this year, and they're going to be competitive.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm really looking forward to watching Banks because you watch him on film, and when it comes to pass rush, guys just give up after about the end of the first quarter. They're like, you know what, I can't beat this guy. Put me over somewhere else. Let me go rush against some other bum. Right. But yeah, it'll be fun to watch him.
Yeah, and with Alex Mack too, like you said, I mean, you hit this perfectly. He's gonna add that veteran who can come in and add stability to where they were having so many issues at center last season with the calls at the line and just everything that goes on, especially in Kyle's offense. I mean, that is probably the most important offensive lineman outside of the left tackle for this offensive line. And going back to Kyle's Atlanta days, even you saw how important it was. And I think that's the other thing too, is when this offense evolves with Trey, when they go away from the Jimmy offense, they're going to have to rely on that center, that guard that they just drafted to really hold things together so that Trey Lance isn't put in a bad position. I mean, that's the worst thing you can do to a young quarterback is to have bad offensive line play. And even I remember I saw, I think, a PFF graphic or one of these media companies put out a graphic that they think the 49ers have one of the 5 to 10 best offensive lines in the league, which I don't know if I would absolutely go and say that far, but I think when you consider how many great offensive lines there are in a league, the 49ers are certainly within that mix and within that conversation of those teams who should be considered in the upper echelon.
Yeah, I think if they all stay healthy and do play up to their potential this year, that 5 to 10 range definitely would fit where they belong.